Boom. We are live. After
This
whatever
is-
last night was.
That was for how mundane the draft started. What an ending!
Well, it was so shocked, but it was so much fun though, because it was all offensive players. There weren't any trades. Like, we were expecting some wild, like, was New York going to trade up? Was Minnesota going to trade up? You know, who's trading back? All that kind of stuff. And it was a very chalky top 10. And then it got, then we finally had to get into like the defensive players went and more tackles went. We hit corners. But then the ending, dude. The ending was fun. Ooh.
I was so confused. Like my jaw dropped. I'm getting ready to go to sleep. And I was like, all right, let's round this out, see where we finish. I was jaw on the floor. The last two picks. I can't believe that shit, man. We had a fun live show today. Like, this is the most excited I've been for a live show in a while.
Oh, I've been saying that this was the most excited I've been for an NFL draft. And I'm always excited, but this was like, I don't know, something about 2024, and it all just came to fruition of the fact that we had 6 quarterbacks go in the top 12. That's never happened before. The first 14, 15 picks were offensive players. That's never happened before. So it was a fun draft, and obviously it ended really strong. Tonight's going to be even more fun, I think, too, because we're going to get even more like Dynasty level players being taken. We're going to get running backs figured out tonight, other wide receivers to fill out the rest of the top 10. It's going to be really, really fun. So the way that we kind of decided to structure this was just pretty conversational. I mean, we don't really have like an order in terms of like what we're going to react to. We're not going to really go pick by pick, which just, if you guys have questions, you guys want us to talk about, specific players or situations, how our rookie rankings have changed, how veteran values have changed. You got trade questions, dynasty rookie draft questions, all that kind of stuff. That's how we're going to flow, and we'll just see how long this takes us. So,
yeah. I mean, I got an hour. I got an hour. I have a day job.
That's stupid.
As far as they know, I am at the dentist right now. So like, that's not like, I have an hour.
the lobby wait time was a little too long today. It
was crazy. I got a crown put in. My dentist's name is Crentist. It's how it works.
Eminem.
All right, we already got questions anyway. Let's just roll. Yeah.
Michael's kicking us off. Where does Xavier Worthy go in rookie Superflex drafts now? And we kind of were talking about this a little bit before. We had a few minutes before we went live that we were just kind of like, what the heck is going on? But where does Xavier Worthy slide in for you in rookie Superflex drafts?
So he's been the toughest one, because I did not think he was going to be a first round pick. I don't know. In my mind, he was penciled in the early second. I'm bumping him up a tier. He's now, for me, sitting probably where a lot of people had him. I'm late to the game here. For me, he is sitting right behind Brian Thomas Jr. And I get the appeal of the landing spot. I get the appeal that he's probably going to be the consensus wide receiver 4. I'm not there. For me, he is 5, and like wide receiver 5, he's going to be like the 108, 109 range. And I think I might be low, like relative to what's going to happen in drafts. I think he'll go higher than that.
Well, if you think you're low, I'm even lower on Worthy still. Okay. I have him as my wide receiver 6 right now, which was a 2-spot bump up from where I had him pre-draft. But he is still my 13th overall prospect in Superflex, so the 2.01 in 12-team leagues. He is behind Brian Thomas Jr. I still have him slotted in behind Troy Franklin. I keep looking at this ranking, though, and I don't know how long that's going to stay. If I'm going to change that before tonight, or if I'm just going to wait till I see where Franklin ends up landing tonight, then I'll switch it. But that one I could see changing very, very quickly. And then I still have him behind the other 2 running backs. I still have him behind Brooks, and I still have him behind Trey Benson, just because I'm still hopeful for good landing spots for both of them, whether that's Dallas for Brooks or whoever for Trey Benson. I still think that there's a good opportunity that both of them are ahead of Worthy still by the end of tonight. But as it stands right now, he's my 6 at the 2.01. And I'm still holding out the possibility that Adonai still jumps over him if he goes to Buffalo to kick things off.
Yeah. Well, and I think the part of this is that's interesting. Like in the public eye, everybody's going to say Chiefs, Mahomes, nuts landing spot. Like that's as good as it gets.
Perfect.
Right. Everything. I prefer Brian Thomas's landing spot. I mean, just look at where Xavier Worthy is. You're at least this year, and maybe for 2 years, you have Travis Kelce to contend with. He's the number one target in the offense. That is maybe not a bona fide number one wide receiver, but it's Travis Kelce. You have Rashee Rice, obviously legal concerns, but Rashee Rice is still going to earn a lot of targets. We saw him explode at the end of last season. You bring in Hollywood Brown. While production has not been great for him, he's shown the ability to earn a good amount of targets. There is a real world where Xavier Worthy is the fourth option in his rookie year. Like that would not surprise me. And especially given how Chiefs rookies have typically started. Tyreek Hill, Rashee Rice, to be the two big ones here. They're going to start slow. So that Xavier Worthy spot is interesting. And you go to the flip side of with Brian Thomas. Okay, you have Evan Ingram there. It's a much, much lesser version of Travis Kelce in terms of a target share earner. You have Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk is solid. He can be in that 20% range. He should be in that 20% range. And then Zay Jones, Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas has obviously Trevor Lawrence is not Patrick Mahomes. They do not have Andy Reid. But from an opportunity standpoint, Brian Thomas's path looks much better than Xavier Worthy. And I've had him as a better prospect. He goes earlier in the draft. I still prefer Brian Thomas.
100% agree. I basically summed all that up in my video that dropped a few hours ago. Yep. Basically, I was like, BTJ was my wide receiver 4 coming in. He's my wide receiver 4 coming out, just because I think he was a better prospect than Worthy. And I agree with you. I think that the Jaguars landing spot for Thomas is at worst even with Worthy. But I think you can like you just argued, very easily could be a better landing spot initially for BTJ. And that's just propping up his value a little bit more. John does bring up the point that Worthy could also easily jump Odunze in the public eye just because of the year one opportunity that Odunze may or may not have with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. Now you're the Bears fan here, but I'm going to ask you to speak slightly impartially. If you can.
I'm really good at that. No, I'm great at that. Go ahead.
But no, I think putting him over Odunze is crazy. That's just way too much value on the situation and completely dismissing the massive gap in talent.
Right. Like we've done months and months of research on these players. Everybody has, not just us, but quite literally everybody has. And everything has told us Odunze is well ahead of Brian Thomas. He's well ahead of Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, Ricky Parris, everybody else you can think of, right? And naturally, as people do in Dynasty, we're just going to look at the landing spot and ignore everything else. Year one is not going to be great for Rome Odunze. I think that's like something we just have to accept. But as a talent, he's not going anywhere. Like he's going to be very, very good. He comes into a poor situation from an opportunity perspective year one. Xavier Worthy might outproduce him year one. I don't know if that's a guarantee, but it's a possibility. I'm still going to take Odunze over him. The draft capital gap itself, the NFL is telling us there's a huge gap between these two players.
20 picks, yeah, which is
right. And if Caleb Williams actually turns into Caleb Williams, it's going to be one of the best landing spots in football in 2 years. Like that's the truth there. So Odunze, you're playing the long game, just like you did with JSN. But Odunze is a much better prospect than Jackson Smith and Jigba was.
And had a much bigger draft capital investment as an actual top 10 pick, not like the 20th overall pick that JSN was. The opportunity, we touched on this a little bit as we were talking before we started the stream, but we mentioned about how, the hope was that Tyler Lockett would get cut. He was under contract for 2024, and we were just hoping that he would get cut because of the cap casualty nature of his contract. Keenan Allen is actually a legitimate free agent at the end of the year. And it would take the Bears organization actually working with him and his agent to sign him back. So there's more activation energy there needed to bring Keenan Allen back next year rather than just saying, oh, we'll just keep Tyler Lockett and we can just make the cap work and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And as the Bears fan, again, I will say, like, I know obviously more about the contracts that are on. We have to extend DJ Moore. Braxton Jones is coming up for an extension as well. There's going to be players that need to get paid, and investing heavy money into DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and then, with an extension, and then having top 10 money with Odunze, like it gets difficult to have that much money into your wide receiver room. So there is a world where Keenan Allen leaves. As just a Bears fan, I hope he stays because I think it'd be fun for a couple of years. But as a Odunze fantasy owner, potentially, I hope to God Keenan Allen is gone, because that path is just going to get so much easier when you're the number 2 option or the 1B for a guy like Caleb Williams, hopefully.
Let's hit a trade question real quick, and it's kind of a little bit of the Bears talk as well too, because we've got DJ Moore. But John just made a trade in a 10x11 Superflex half PPR league, 1.5 tight end premium. He gave DJ Moore the 106, the 108, and the 2.03. Got Tank Dell in the 1.01. Team is loaded, and he now has the 1, 3, and 4, and the 2.02. So how do you feel about this deal with DJ Moore here?
So ultimately, it's Tank Dell and Caleb Williams for DJ Moore, potentially Drake May or JJ McCarthy, or both, or both potentially here. It's an interesting deal. Again, you have the 103, the 104. I think I'd prefer the DJ Moore side. Like the 108, like the 106, 108, you're getting 2, in our eyes, I think how we both view this, like 2 tier 2 rookies with a top 15 wide receiver.
He's going Marvin Harrison. He already has Mahomes and Hurts. I'll go back.
Okay. I think I still prefer DJ Moore. I think I prefer the package of picks.
I think this trade is extremely fair. I think that I would, especially if your team is loaded and you devalue depth a little bit, then I think I could understand working the trade where Marvin Harrison is basically the same or even slightly better than your shots on 6, 8, and the 2.03, right? So like I would take DJ Moore over Tank Dell. I feel like most people would, probably most everybody would. But this Tank Dell is still a quality wide receiver that you're getting back. And I think I would trust in the known a little bit more of Marvin Harrison Jr. in Arizona with Kyler Murray than, the added depth of, your QB3 and May or McCarthy or whoever that is. You get maybe Bowers, or that's Odunze at 8. 2.03 is just, that's technically the 2.01. It's a 10-team league. So that could be Brooks or Benson. I get it from both sides. It's a lot of good players coming back, but at the same time, if you just want Marvin Harrison Jr. and he becomes Marvin Harrison Jr.,
right?
Yeah,
I don't think there's a loser in this trade. Now, in 2 years, that'll probably be a different answer, because there's the likelihood of all 3 of those players you pick hitting, slim. Just the nature of rookie drafts. But on paper right now, I prefer the package. Like Addison said, like this is more than a fair deal, either side.
Mm-hmm. J Dub says you end up with Sky Moore, Jalen Reagor, and Quentin Johnston when you worry about landing spot over talent and production. Boom.
You're also going to end up with Xavier Leggett.
Hey,
as well. Maybe
calm
Keon
down.
Coleman.
Okay, that one's fine.
I'm gonna keep. Look, I moved him up. I'm moving Leggett up. I'm moving him up a tier. I still don't like the profile. I do not like it at all, one bit. But I will respect the draft capital. I will follow my own rules. Where something happens, I don't expect it, I will bump him up. I probably will not draft him because I still value him as like a late second, and there's no way he lands at that place.
I have him I have him at 17. So he's what, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 205.
Yeah. I'm not looking at him until Jalen Polk and some other guys are off the board, and I know that's not happening. Assuming Polk gets drafted today, which is obviously there's still questions here. There's still big questions.
Sure. Chris is asking, is now the time to buy Kirk Cousins, especially if you're a contender? I still think he starts the entire year, but I could also see people panicking a little and sell him cheap. Obviously, you're referring to Superflex here. So It took us 15 minutes, but we got to the Michael Penix pick. I'm sure we both have some thoughts on this one. I'm sure everybody in the chat has thoughts on this one. Let
me just say Falcons doing?
I have no idea. It is so stupid. I don't get it at all. Even if he is Jordan Love, the investment at 8 overall is wild, you know?
Like I get the idea of wanting to have a good backup quarterback that's young and can develop, but he's not young. Like he's not young. Like I get the appeal of that. Jordan Love was what, 21, maybe 20.
Jordan Love was, I think, had just turned 21 when he got drafted.
He was young. If they had done this with JJ McCarthy, the backlash is significantly better. Like there's just less of it because he's young. He's going to develop. Michael Penix, if things go according to plan, he might be 27 or 28 years old when he is the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. What are we doing? Also, just total side note, they did not have a top 30 visit with Michael Penix. No, they met with him for 45 minutes, and they were like, yep, we're good. That does not happen in the NFL. Terry Fontenot is, I think how you pronounce it, is getting fired so soon. Holy crap.
Did you see the video of him having to explain to the owner?
If you're moving your hands like dude, doing that, you're screwed. You're done. Screwed. That was tough.
So I would say yes, I'm absolutely buying Kirk Cousins. I still view him. I'm not even considering, I'm not even considering the question of is he still the starter by the end of the year. I'm wondering if he is still the starter by 2027. And I think that's more of a realistic possibility that he lasts that long than only lasts a year and a half. I don't think Cousins is a bridge QB here. I think they just really messed up and took Michael Penix. So I would absolutely buy Kirk Cousins cheap. If you can get him for a late first and super flex, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm just looking at the comments at the bottom. Like maybe Kirk Cousins isn't as healthy. Maybe, it's the Achilles injury and like it's not healing properly. Did you not do your due diligence before you gave Kirk Cousins a ton of money? Like if you're paying him that much, I would have assumed or I would have hoped they've looked and said, yeah, everything looks good on the Achilles. He's in the right direction, right? Like how much has shifted in the last 6 weeks from the time they signed Kirk Cousins to today in terms of his health? So if you're going to give him a bag and then still have questions about the injury, that's just crazy behavior. Granted, the Falcons make stupid decisions, it seems, routinely. Like ever since Thomas Dimitroff left, like it's just been chaos there.
Not to mention the own medical evaluations on the quarterback they just drafted.
Right. If you're worried about the health, why don't you take a guy that has 2 ACL tears and he's basically held together by duct tape? Like, what are we doing? Here's the thing. NFL teams they're usually smarter than us. That's why they're doing this. And we're on YouTube talking about them and what they do. But they also make really dumb decisions. And I think this is one of them.
Yes, I don't get this one at all. Yeah. Nick is asking about Jaden Daniels now. So we got some other quarterback talk. Is Jaden Daniels 100% the 1.03 in Superflex, or should we still be considering Malik Neighbors? Or I'll even toss out there, is anybody else even in the conversation still between Drake May or McCarthy on the Vikings? Or
for me, it's between these two. I treat it very much how we've talked about Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. Like if you're loaded at quarterback, right? You have Mahomes and Hurts. You have Herbert and Dak Prescott even. You have 2 top 10 guys. I'm fine taking Neighbors at the 103. I'd prefer to swap with the 104 if you can get a deal done, but I'd be fine taking Neighbors. In a vacuum, Jaden Daniels is my 103 though. Like if you roster considerations aside, Daniels is pretty locked in as my 103.
I feel the same exact way about how it's very similar to Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison, where I believe like 90 to 95% of the time you should just be taking the quarterback.
Correct.
Jaden Daniels. So I made 2 changes to my top 8 after the NFL draft. The first change was JJ McCarthy went from 108 to 106. He bumped Odunze and Bowers because he went to Minnesota, which was like the clear-cut ideal landing spot for him. And then my other change was Jaden Daniels now became his own tier. So I have Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison as a tier of 101 and 102. Jaden Daniels is in his own tier at 1.03. And then Neighbors down to Bowers, 104 through 108 is one giant tier. So I firmly believe that Jaden Daniels is the 1.03. And like I said, like it takes a very specific roster for me to not just say, just take Jaden Daniels at the 1.03. And even then, I think that it could still be a smart move because if you get somebody a quarterback who can gain so much value by having a really strong rookie year, then that just increases the value of your roster to where then you can move him for twice as much as what you just paid for him this year, Like Kyler Murray, I've been making this comparison a lot. Kyler Murray was drafted into a Cliff Kingsbury offense in 2019, immediately had a QB7 year. Following year had a QB2 overall year.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels is basically the exact same type of quarterback. He still has weapons in Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson's got Austin Eckler out of the backfield, Brian Robinson too, for what they're worth. And Daniels' stats, his final year of college compared to Kyler's final year, very similar. Now, granted, it was year 3 versus year 5, but final year statistics were both very similar for both of them in terms of 1,000+ rushing yards, double-digit rushing touchdowns, 4,040, and like a handful of interceptions. It was all so similar between the two of them, and they're both going into a Cliff Kingsbury offense. We've already seen what Kyler did with it, and now I'm excited for Jaden Daniels in the Commanders offense with that.
He's going to run so much. So much. He could run for 1,000 yards, assuming he's healthy, which is not a guarantee because he takes massive hits.
Sure.
Routinely, which is just crazy. The man has to learn how to slide. But he's like, for fantasy, he's going to be fantastic. We've talked about this in our last mock draft. We talked about it on the live stream mock draft we did too. Like, he's going to be great for fantasy. How long he lasts is a different question because I don't know if he's a great NFL quarterback. Like, that is a real question. What I do know is for fantasy, his skill set is perfect. So again, in a vacuum, my 103. If I have 2 top 10 quarterbacks, I'll probably take Neighbors because we've talked about, I don't think that landing spot for Neighbors is all that bad. He is talented enough. He won't thrive. He's not going to be a top 10 guy this year, but he can survive there. Like, in the sense of he's going to see 140 to 150 targets. Saquon Barkley leaving is another large part of this that opens up an enormous number of targets in that offense. And he's immediately steps in and is the only actual like NFL caliber wide receiver on the roster, probably.
Yep. Dable knows what to do. I trust in Brian Dable. I trust in Malik Neighbors. I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he has 1,000. I wouldn't be surprised if he has 1,000 yards in year 1. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Just from a sheer volume perspective, he might have 3 touchdowns, which is going to hurt from a fantasy perspective. But a 1,000-yard rookie, a 950+ yard rookie, that is a recipe for value gain heading into year 2. And we're now we're all excited, like we were for Garrett Wilson, like we were for Olave, like we were for London. And maybe it takes till year 3, like it has for most of them or all 3 of them to this point. But every single year, the train just keeps rolling.
Think Drake London's usage usage stats from his rookie year. He had like a 28% target share. 26%.
Wilson had a 25% as a
exactly
rookie with Zach Wilson.
Right. So like it's crazy. Like he's pencil him in for a 25% plus target share. There's no scenario he doesn't hit that outside of just being like leaving a bunch of games early and skewing stats. Like that's the only way he doesn't get there, I feel like.
Brendan, in a 12-team Superflex half PPR start 9, quarterback room is Allen, Hurts, Stroud, and Trevor Lawrence. Would you give Trevor Lawrence and receive the 1.05 and Curtis Samuel? Is this enough, or would you ask for more?
I don't know if it's necessarily like enough, but at some point I care less about getting quote unquote fair value, and like 105 is going to improve your roster much more than Trevor Lawrence will. Like, your starting lineup will get unequivocally better if you go to 105 and you take Rome Odunze, Brock. You know what I mean?
Or
Whatever
Neighbors
pass catcher. Yeah, or Neighbors if he's sitting there. Brock Bowers. If you take a pass catcher there, it may not be quote necessarily 100% fair value, but I'd make that trade.
My issue with this trade more or less is Curtis Samuel. I want him to be better. I understand like he currently is the wide receiver 1 for Buffalo right now, but that could change by 7:05 tonight. You know, that in 6 hours that could be completely different.
Here's the thing. I don't even view Curtis Samuel in this deal.
No.
Like I'm looking at 105 for Trevor Lawrence.
Yes.
I'd rather it be a second or even like a Deontay Johnson might be too high, but like somebody in that tier. Mm-hmm. Christian Kirk, because he's going to take a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of those veteran wide receivers that is penciled into a role. Curtis Samuel is not penciled into absolutely anything.
Yep. Brendan, who else does he have on his roster, just out of curiosity, of players that are higher valued than Curtis Samuel, but not like ridiculous? Like you don't have to include like if he has like Jalen Waddle or somebody like that, because then that's probably not realistic. But higher value players that are of interest to you that you could change Curtis Samuel out and make a counteroffer on this.
Because there's got to be somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, there has to be for sure. Trent has the 102, 105 going Marvin Harrison Jr. And then in between my next pick, he has Anthony Richardson and Jared Goff. And he's leaning JJ McCarthy right now over Drake May as his quarterback 3.
I think that's fine. I also like if New England comes away with a Troy Franklin or an Adonai Mitchell, I still think Drake May is better than JJ McCarthy. The landing spots are dramatically different. The weapons could not be further apart from each other. But you bring in an Adonai Mitchell, you can start to make an argument for Drake May, but just given how hard it is to scout quarterback, a lot of the times taking the quarterback with the better weapons is often the safer play, I think.
Yeah. Yep. They're both back to back. I have Drake May at 105 and I have JJ McCarthy 106.
Right. So use a tiebreaker, whatever you want to do there. Scouting quarterback is so hard. So hard. Think about a couple years ago when we had the 5. It was Lawrence, Wilson, Lance, Fields, Jones. They're all bad. Trevor Lawrence is fine, but like they're all bad. So we could look back in 2 years and all this pontification around like JJ versus May could be all for nothing.
Yep. I'd probably
That's depressing. That's depressing.
If you feel better about one of these two, then I'd say just go for it. If you lean JJ because of Justin Jefferson, I think that's a very valid reason.
Like it's the best receiver that has walked the face of the earth might help. Like that's good.
John expects New England to trade for Higgins, Ayuk, or Debo, or draft somebody with they have the second pick tonight. So if Buffalo goes wide receiver, they can also go wide receiver, which they have. Adonai and Franklin are both sitting right there.
So I know you're going to hate it. So is Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey's going to be a Charger.
Probably.
Actually, I wonder if I can bet that right now.
Or Roman Wilson. Or both.
Roman Wilson would be a disaster there. Just a disaster.
Benjamin, he's got 2 questions. They revolve around Bengals players here in a 12-team super flex start 10. What would you need on top of Tua to down tier from Joe Burrow? And then the second question is Neighbors plus equals Jamar. So let's tackle the quarterback one first. What do you need on top of Tua to down tier from Joe Burrow?
So here's what I ask you to do for me, Benjamin. Can you tell us the guys that are available on those rosters?
Yes.
I think I throw out a lot of things here. They might not apply at all. Tell us who's on those rosters that that you're at least interested in, and we can go from there. I think us just throwing out random names is not going to be helpful.
I agree. I think that's a good way to approach this for sure.
I could throw out a bunch of stuff. It may be useless to you.
Yep. I could be like, I need at least like the 104 back or something like that. And you're like, oh, well, he doesn't have any picks this year. Well.
He has the 112. Okay, well, the hell are we doing here?
So, Benjamin, we'll come back to that whenever you throw that in here. Brendan got back to us. He says that he has Puka, Jordan Addison, Christian Kirk, and a 26 second. He knows that he's high on both second-year wide receivers. Puka's already too much already. Although if you could trade Puka for Trevor Lawrence, that would be great. Maybe you send that as an offer and just see what happens.
Which trade was this again?
This was the Trevor Lawrence for the 105 and Curtis Samuel.
Oh, dude.
So
I would do it with Christian Kirk.
I was just about to say, swap out Samuel and ask for Christian Kirk. And then if you want, you could send a second offer and just be like, hey, as an alternative, I would also trade you Trevor Lawrence for Puka and see what happens.
Oh, that'd be unbelievable. I'd be shocked.
Just see what happens. Just throw both of the offers at him. See what happens. Say, if you like one of these, go for it.
Yeah. I will say this, like this time of year is the best. I've had so many leagues that were just asleep. The number of trade offers I got last night, text messages blew up. I was sitting on Sleeper till like 1 a.m, just looking through trade offers. I had a blast. The best time of the year.
It's so much fun. All right, Benjamin got back to us. He said these are the players that he has to bridge the gap, it looks like, for the Tua Joe Burrow trade. So Tua plus what on this list equals Joe Burrow? And I'm starting at
I'm starting at like DK Metcalf.
I don't even think that's enough.
And like the 207?
Nope.
Okay, the 202.
No, I still don't think that's enough.
It's tough. It's a package they're probably not going to want to pay.
I would love to do Tua and AJ Brown for Burrow and something smaller, like a second.
I don't think you could get that.
I would love to do that.
Well, yeah, I bet you would. I don't think
I would just.
I don't.
The issue here is that there is no player of value in between. Like DK and DJ Moore, I feel like are effectively similar value.
DJ Moore is pretty far ahead.
Okay,
looking at the ADP, it's a pretty big gap right now.
That's fair. But AJ Brown is such a drastic bump up from both of those, to where there's really nothing in between. To where AJ Brown is almost unrealistic. But I want something more with DJ Moore and DK. But I don't think the seconds bridge that gap. You know what I mean?
I agree. Well, so if it's super flex, 202, is it a 10-team league? 12-team?
12.
That's less interesting. I'll say 202 and a 10-team. That's the 112. Like, okay, I'm into that. Man, would you do it? Hear me out. Would you do? McBride's going to be tough because it's a one-off position, so you have to give a tight end back. Would you do Burrow for Tua, Rachaad White, DK Metcalf? Assuming Rachaad White survives day 3 or day 2, and they don't bring in a big name running back.
Probably.
It kind of feels like 3/4 for $1, but I like that. I think depending on the state of your roster, that's an interesting trade.
Yes, I agree. That one's difficult. How about for the one quarterback trade? What else does what does he have with Neighbors that we can package up for Jamar? Or what do you have for Neighbors that we could package up for Jamar?
Is it the same league?
No, it's a one quarterback.
No, it's a different league. Okay.
Yeah, it's a different league.
Tell us.
Brian said conspiracy theory. The tampering allegations are so egregious it's going to void Kirk's contract. that would be wild. Here's the thing. If that's true, I apologize to the Falcons. You galaxy brained it. Like, well done. Yes, you did what you had to do. If I told you right now that Kirk Cousins is not in the picture and you have Michael Penix starting with Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, how high is Michael Penix for you in rookie drafts? Does he get to the first round? No, he's still sitting at the back half, like start of the second. Okay. There's not a scenario, I think, where I'm putting him up there, just because I have questions about Michael Penix in general. Yes. That's why I have Bo Nix at 203. So I feel like he'd be ahead of Bo Nix because the NFL told me he's ahead of Bo Nix and his weapons are significantly better than Denver. Yes. But I feel like I still feel like I couldn't put him into the first round, maybe the 112 if we get some gross landing spots or something like that.
Right, like there's talk. I can't even talk about the second round yet. I feel like because I don't know. We don't know anything about the second round yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a black box right now.
And this is all completely hypothetical because Kirk Cousins is still there.
Yeah, yeah. Spend time on this.
Here's the one quarterback league. So we need a player here that bridges the gap between Malik Neighbors and Jamar Chase. Ben, are you buying Chase or selling Chase? Because that would have changed my answer slightly.
I'm assuming buying. If he's trying, he's tearing down from Burrow, so maybe he's tearing off.
Buying Chase.
Okay.
He has Burrow as his quarterback. Oh, interesting.
Okay, love a stack. If I could give up Neighbors and Josh Jacobs, I don't know if that would get you there, but I'd be fine doing that.
I'd rather trade one of these wide receivers. I think I'd rather.
To give up,
I would consolidate
Neighbors and Nico.
Yep.
Yeah, or you can actually, you wouldn't be able to do Neighbors and Keenan, but carrying both Bears wide receivers isn't great.
Would you do Neighbors, Keenan in the 25 first?
Feels pricey.
I'd do that.
It feels pricey for me, but I don't. If it's projected to be a late first, yeah. But like if you're looking at a potentially early first, that's less interesting.
I mean, yeah. If it's his 25 first and he's got this lineup with Joe Burrow, it's probably and it's a one quarterback league as well too. So a late one QB. The only other options I have been given, we're giving up Neighbors, Jacobs, and Keenan, or Neighbors and DJ Moore.
Neighbors and DJ Moore feels steep.
That feels a little too high.
That feels pricey.
The Jacobs and Keenan one is effectively a 25 first in Keenan, I feel like, but I would take Jacobs over a 25 first, especially as a contender.
Yes. Yeah, you're trying to win. Would you do? You think you could swing Neighbors, Judy in the first?
I doubt it. I'd do Neighbors, Keenan in the first. I would be willing to do that. Neighbors, Keenan, and a first for Jamar Chase. Go win a title. Make sure that pick is the 112.
Yeah, banners fly forever.
And there you go.
Yeah,
I'd try that.
Yeah, that's fair. It would suck in the moment. I think it would suck in the moment from a value perspective. But
when Neighbors is the wide receiver 30 in points per game, struggling to score more than 14 points.
Yeah, it's easy to score a single touchdown, maybe.
And Chase has a 1,400-yard season. It's not going to matter. You're going to be happy.
Yeah, no, that's all right. You're talking me into it.
Okay.
I'm on your side.
All right, that's good to hear. Nick, one by 12 team superflex. Need a quarterback. Have 12 team. Yeah. Have Fields and Love. Have picks 102, 106, 112. Wide receivers are Ayuk, Higgins, Collins, Puka. Guy with 101 has A-Rich, 2 Levis, and Stafford. Does he take Caleb? And what quarterback do I trade for?
So that guy should take Caleb to begin with, but
I think he should.
Fields, Love.
Although he might view his quarterbacks as enough.
He might. He shouldn't, but he might. Oh God. Okay.
If he doesn't take Caleb, then this is amazing. Congratulations on getting Caleb at the 1.02.
Yeah, easy.
Do you think if the guys are at 101, you feel like might be on the fence of taking Caleb, would you just throw 102 and Judy at him and just see if that works? Just to solidify Caleb.
I'd throw 102 and Judy. I'd throw 102 and a late second. If it makes that big of a difference for my team, and in this scenario it would, I think you're pretty set at wide receiver.
Yep.
Going up and getting Caleb Williams is not the worst idea.
Yep.
Late second, literally any third. Like, hey, man, look, even if you want to take Marvin Harrison Jr., move back just for fun. Here's a free pick.
Just do it for fun.
Right, for funsies, man. Why not? Like, I think that's fine.
Would you do 102 and Christian Watson?
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah. Christian Watson's values.
I'd start with Judy. See if Judy gets it done. And then you might get a quarterback at 106 as well too. You might be able to double dip. So then
I
that
would
way, then you
trust
kind of have a
him.
more solidified like starting quarterback QB3 for your bye weeks, and in case one of these guys gets injured, and then Fields is your complete like
Mhm.
hope Bitcoin option, basically. Just like please go back up to what it was. That's kind of what you're hoping for,
Yeah,
Justin Fields.
maybe he's starting. Yeah, and you want to hedge here even with 106. Like 2 quarterbacks coming out of this class, odds are 1 will be good. Again, we all assume and hope it's Caleb Williams. Could be Drake May, could be JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, and with the wide receivers you have, I feel like you can avoid passing on um Odunze at 106, and you probably still get a wide receiver at 112 even if you want. You can take the
Yeah.
shot on Worthy or Adonai or Franklin or grab a running back. Paul said, "What are your thoughts on Neighbors with the Giants? Would you try to trade up for him, do the bad landing spot, or is it another highly talented player who's capped because of his quarterbacks?" We kind of touched on this a little bit already. I think we're both in agreement that he's going to see a massive target share, probably going to gain value heading into year 2 because of that target share. But year 1 might just be not fantasy great because he's probably not going to score a bunch of touchdowns. Or maybe he
Yeah.
does. I don't know. Maybe Daniel Jones has a semi decent season,
Way to really say it with conviction. You're like, yeah, he might, or he might.
Uh,
I don't think
we're-
he's scoring a lot of touchdowns
no,
unless it's Malik Neighbors making the plays. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, if he's the one, it's not going to be because Daniel Jones is dropping dimes and throwing for 4,000 yards.
Dable's just
Like,
cooking up
that's
some plays, and he's just like, all we got to do is give Neighbors the ball, and he's gonna score.
he's Walter White just cooking up the
Just
nastiest you've ever seen. Like, it's just it's probably not gonna happen with Daniel Jones. Neighbors is gonna be fine. We talk about like situation or talent over situation. Situation changes quickly. There's a real chance they are one in the mix for Dak Prescott next year if he doesn't get signed, right? If that falls apart in Dallas. And there's also a real chance they're picking high next year for a
yeah.
rookie quarterback. Whether the rookie quarterback's good, who the hell knows? But there's probably either a quarterback change or Daniel Jones turned into something.
Yep. Speaking of Daniel or Malik Neighbors, would you trade what looks to be a top 3 2025 rookie pick and either DK Metcalf or Zay Flowers for the chance to draft Malik Neighbors? And this isn't a super flex league, so a top 3 rookie pick, while 2025 doesn't look to be as top heavy as this year, it's a top 3 rookie pick in super flex. It could be a quarterback, it could be Travion Henderson, it could
Luther
be
Burden.
Luther Burden. Exactly, like that's still a very valuable pick. Would you be willing to trade that pick and one of these receivers for the chance to draft Malik Neighbors?
It's a dangerous game for the person buying a pick thinking it's top 3. Weird things happen. With that being said, Flowers or Metcalf feels
Too high.
it feels expensive with what's supposed to be a high end pick, and that's how they're probably valuing it too. So I'd want to go a tier lower than those guys.
Agreed. Yeah, it's a little too high. Metcalf and Flowers will probably both outscore Neighbors this year. So if you're looking from a production standpoint, that works. And then you still get a top 3 pick next year. Which if it's Luther Burden, you're getting a Malik Neighbors prospect anyway. Next just 1 year from now.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I'd want a guy in like the Jaden Reed range.
That's a good name.
Jaden Reed, Christian Watson,
Chris
other
Godwin.
Packers wide receivers, Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wick. No, like the next tier of players. Josh Downs is probably too far down the list, but like a Jaden Reed, range is where, that's the range I'd go to attach to a high end pick to feel good about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Nick says follow up on his 103 Daniels question. So he was asking, is Daniels the solidified 1.03? He has Joe Burrow and Jordan Love. Is this a scenario where you'd be okay taking Malik Neighbors?
It's like about the line. Like that feels about the line. I think I'd still probably go Daniels.
Yeah. Neighbors is enticing, but the upside of Jaden Daniels, dude. especially if I would say this too, if you are in an active league, like a fairly active league where you're able to trade away quarterbacks, then I would probably take Jaden Daniels and see what kind of ROI I can get next year. If you're in a not so active league, I might still take Jaden Daniels, because then imagine having Burrow and Jaden Daniels, like a top 10 Daniels, But I could see taking
Like
Neighbors there too.
yeah, like it is right on the line for me. I'd lean Daniels still.
Yeah, with me being as wishy washy on any conviction on this, I'd say take the quarterback. Almost always take the quarterback in Superflex. On the topic of Jaden Daniels, do you have any concerns with the Washington offensive line and Daniels' pressure to sack percentage being pretty rough every year, except for last year? So I guess this adds to the wear and tearness.
He's going to get sacked a ton. Like, he has pretty routinely been bad at taking sacks. He takes a lot of them, puts himself in a bad spot, which is why, like, I love Jaden Daniels, the fantasy player. The quarterback, it's himself. He's in a tough spot to be very successful.
So Justin Fields took 55 sacks in 2022, and that led the NFL.
Fields takes so many sacks. Oh my God.
Yeah. So that was 55 sacks in 2022, most in the NFL. And he only finished that season as the QB7 in fantasy. So from a
for fantasy, it doesn't matter.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in points per game. So again, this to me is like Jaden Daniels can burn bright and it may not last a long time, but the investment, if I told you right now, you can draft Jaden Daniels and you get 2 top 10 fantasy seasons out of him over the next 3 years, everybody would be drafting him at the 1.03, So he might not survive to making a second contract, or he might not get like he might Justin Fields himself, which I think is very possible. But
I think it's almost the expectation.
But if he's going to produce like that for fantasy, it kind of doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah. So think about it this way. By the time Jaden Daniels is up for his second contract, the most likely scenario is the leagues you're currently drafting in won't exist. Like, given just how Dynasty has become, like it's upsetting, but Dynasty has become like a 3 to 5 year thing. And then everybody just does a new startup. Like, it's very, very annoying. It's very frustrating, but that's the truth. So there's a real chance in 4 years, the league you're currently in may not exist. You may not have to deal with Jaden Daniels not becoming a great NFL quarterback. And like, that's a real pessimistic way to look at this, but I think that's a valid point.
That did really bring me down, Justin. I don't know if I like that, but I think Jaden Daniels is going to be really, really good.
It's upsetting, but it's true.
It's upsetting, but it's true. Hey, we got a super chat, $5 from Levon.
He's going to be incredible. He's going to run so much.
Levon C with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. 12-team Superflex PPR 1.06 and a third, or Tyreek Hill, Drake, and JJ on the board. I don't need a quarterback. I'm competing this year. I have this 107, need help. Okay, so it's essentially, would you trade Drake May or JJ McCarthy for Tyreek Hill? Yes.
Yeah. If you're competing, yes. If you're rebuilding, no, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, you're competing. Go get the likely wide receiver 1 next year.
Yeah, and he has the 1.07, so you could still get one of these quarterbacks and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. Oh, he has Tyreek Hill. Stick with Tyreek Hill.
Stay with Tyreek.
Yes.
Stay with Tyreek.
Yes. All caps, Levon. Don't yell.
And yeah, you have the 1.07. So I mean, you could still take one of the quarterbacks. I know you said you don't need a quarterback, but you can still take one of these quarterbacks and still
Or
have Tyreek Hill.
Odunze. Or even
Or
Odunze. Like stay young and still build that wide receiver room. Like I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. All right, we got there.
Don't yell. Yeah.
we got there. Thank you for the $5 super chat, Levon. Oh, wide receivers are gone. So would you take Bowers at the 107?
Yeah. Bowers. Lock it in.
Because I was wondering, I was like, one of Odunze or Bowers had to have gone for both Drake and JJ to be there at the 106.
Yeah, I'd probably prefer Bowers there. Again, that's the tier. I'm moving guys around in those tiers based on team need at that point. I think they're all very talented. Bowers is probably the better pick, though, given the makeup of the roster, it seems.
I don't know if I have a preference. I have both quarterbacks ahead of Bowers. But I think they're all fantastic investments for the future. Don't know which one necessarily helps you compete this year.
We haven't talked about Brock Bowers. Can we talk about Brock Bowers really quick?
We can talk about Brock Bowers.
That Raiders landing spot, it feels so unbelievably average. Like there's no excitement, but I'm not like necessarily upset about it.
Is he the number 2 immediately? Because I think he is. I think he's over Jacoby.
I've always been a Jacoby Myers fan. I love Jacoby Myers. He's routinely underrated. I now think it may not be a flat out 2. It'll be like a 2A, 2B. I think that's realistic in year one. Because Jacoby Myers, he's proven he can earn targets. He has 25% target share seasons, like under his belt. He is a target earner. But Brock Bowers is probably better. I would hope he's better.
He's probably better, for sure. So the target distribution,
Jacoby Myers made his. Go ahead, yeah.
Adams had 175 targets. Myers had 106, and then Josh Jacobs had 54. Michael Mayer had 40. Hunter Renfrow had 37. So, I mean,
there's room.
There's 90 targets right there just between Jacobs and Renfrow, and nothing else changes.
The only Michael Mayer, like he's gonna earn less. He's playing less. Who was the other tight end that had targets there?
There wasn't.
Okay.
Austin Hooper had 30. Yes. Sorry.
That's I was like, I know somebody else was there. So you had what 70-ish targets last year between Renfrow. Like there's plenty of meat on the bone. And I wouldn't be shocked if Devontae relinquishes some of those targets.
Yeah, he could lose 15 targets, still be at 160, but those 15 targets could be very valuable for somebody else.
Right. Like I could see him losing 20. I have real concerns about Devontae Adams in general moving forward in Dynasty. So
agreed.
There's plenty of meat on the bone. The question is, what's the quality of target? Because it's Aiden O'Connell.
It's Minshew.
It's Minshew. Spencer Rattler, probably.
Oh, I believe in Minshew to be good enough.
Does he play over O'Connell?
Yes, I hope so.
Bro, like all the talk is he doesn't. So good luck figuring that one out. I don't know.
It's an investment. Brock Bowers is an investment, and I think to expect him to be Sam Laporta or Kyle Pitts in year one is a little much. But if he has 700 yards and a few touchdowns this year, would not be surprised. You know, because again, he's that good.
What if Devontae Adams gets traded?
Well, then we have a very different conversation tomorrow.
I wouldn't be shocked if he got moved still. I don't think they will, but I wouldn't be shocked.
Caleb's in the chat. With Marv and Caleb Williams separating even more last night, what would need to be added onto the 1.05 to trade down? This is a great question.
I mean, you got to give up some. You're probably in like the Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers range.
I was going to say, like, I need another pick in that tier, in that top, and in that 5 through 8 tier.
Would you do JSN in the 105?
No.
Jordan Addison, like any of those, the guys I'm thinking, any of them.
Yep. No.
I think that's what it's going to cost, though.
I know that's what's going to cost.
Yeah, like that's
100%
what the cost is.
I'm not trading down for anything less than that, or even that. I need.
But you wouldn't offer that to trade up.
I would.
That's what I was asking.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I would do that to trade up. Yes.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I was looking at it.
I was real worried for a second,
and I don't want to move down.
Right. It's going to cost that at a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be people that say no to that. Like, I think we both would say no to that.
I'd be willing to pay the 105 in DJ Moore. I'd pay the 105 in Nico. I'd pay the 105 in Metcalf. I'd probably do Pittman.
Ayuk, or is that the line? That's too high, right?
I think Waddle, Ayuk, and London are the line.
Yep, that's exactly how I'm looking at this. But if you look at like running backs, 105 and 105 and Travis Etienne.
Why did you pick the one running back that I like in this range?
I know, it's because I know it's the only running back you like there.
Crap.
It's tough.
I don't think I could do it. But if it was Achane, I would do it. Kenneth Walker, I would do it. I would even do it for Josh Jacobs. I love Josh Jacobs too from the production standpoint. And then Pacheco, Rashad White, those are all easy.
Yeah, so I have a question. I'm gonna get in on the questions just because I need help.
Type it in the comments so I can pull it up.
All right, let me join. I'm joining the chat. Oh, I gotta connect my YouTube. Kidding. Damn it, it's a whole thing. I want to do a super chat. Jonathan Taylor, the 103 in a 1 QB league.
Jonathan Taylor.
Interesting. What if you're not competing? Or you're coming out of a competitive window and you're trying to rebuild? This feels specific because
Odunze.
Good. Okay. I have that out there and I'm trying to get it done.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good.
It's very specific because it's me. It's my situation.
John is asking, would you give Jalen Waddle on the 111 and get Bijan in a Superflex league? 12-team Superflex?
Yeah. Do it. Take the money and run. I didn't even look at the roster. I don't care what the roster is.
I didn't look at it either. I was just like, yeah, I'm taking Bijan.
Didn't read a word.
All I read was the deal, and I'm like, yep, Bijan.
Lock me in.
Timmy, would you trade the 2.06 for Dontavian Wicks and the 3.07?
Who's in your 206? It's probably yes.
Leggett.
Probably yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Leggett, right. Sanders, Corum, Allen. That's kind of like the range I'm in right now.
Yeah. If you don't need a running back, I think it's fine. Like that is prime territory to take a running back. If you don't need a guy there, I'd be happy to take Wicks in the 307. I still like Wicks a lot.
If this is a 1 quarterback league, I could lean Wicks because that removes a couple of the quarterbacks above you from Superflex.
Remove 6 quarterbacks potentially.
Williams and Daniels, I think, will still go ahead of 2.06 in 1 quarterback. So
you're correct. No, I'm stupid. Yeah, you're right.
But I mean, that pushes it to essentially be a late second in Superflex, where now maybe you're looking at Estime or Lloyd or Corley or
Keon. You like Estime though. You're a big Estime guy.
I like them a lot, but I think getting Wicks and another shot at the 3.07, so where maybe I can get somebody else that I really like around later, I think that moves the needle for me if it's a 1 quarterback league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wicks is waiver fodder, says John.
Here's the thing. He could be. I don't think he is. I do not think he is.
Boo, John. Boo. This is where we.
Boo.
John and I are in lockstep like 99% of the time because he's constantly answering questions in our AMA, and I agree with all of the answers that he gives 99% of the time. This is the 1%.
Yeah, this is a bad look for you, John.
What happens to Michael Mayer now?
Shadow Realm. He's a blue.
Shadow Realm.
He's got nuked. I hope he gets traded because I like Michael Mayer. Like I thought he was a good talent last year.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And it's just bad news, buddy. get ready to learn blocking. I don't know what you to like. You're done.
Do you think they run more 12 personnel? That's like the only hope at this point. I saw somebody comp this to say that this is Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, except Brock Bowers is an infinitely better talent than Dalton Kincaid. And Mayer has shown significantly less than Dawson Knox, although granted he had less time to show that. But
yeah. So I mean, who's their wide receiver 3 right now? Is it still Trey? Is it Trey Tucker?
Trey Tucker.
Yeah, they're gonna run a lot of 12 personnel. If your wide receiver 3 is Trey Tucker, you're running a lot of 12 personnel. Antonio Pierce feels like that kind of coach too. And whether it's Zamir White or a rookie, or heaven forbid Alexander Madison, they're gonna run a lot of 12 personnel.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of, if that's a base personnel for them to work out of, it's good to have all of their best weapons out on the field and simultaneously not show to defenses whether or not they're running or passing. You know, I think that's smart from their perspective, unless they were to draft somebody that's a better wide receiver 3 than Trey Tucker.
But here's the thing, though. Whether they're running or passing, does it really matter?
Not really.
If Aiden O'Connell's under center,
oh, it's Gardner Minshew.
Matter all that much.
Speaking of which, is Minshew a low-key buy right now? What would you pay for Gardner Minshew?
Given the fact that I don't know where he's starting, I mean, like the 312.
Would you rather have? Let's. All right, I'm gonna give you this scenario. You're at the 3.01, and you are debating between Michael Penix or Gardner Minshew. You can't take anybody else at the 301. It's got to be Michael Penix.
The answer is not anybody else. Like I'd even take fucking Spencer. I'd take Spencer Rattler there. I mean, I like Spencer Rattler. Probably Ricky Penix. I read damn comments. Michael Penix. Yeah, I take Penix, I guess. I hate that. I hate that scenario so much, especially because they're gonna take a Joe Milton or a Spencer Rattler, and none of this is gonna matter. I don't want anybody in that scenario.
I would trade a third-round pick for Gardner. I don't think I would trade a second.
No, there's no. He's not guaranteed to be the starter. You might be trading it for like 5 games of Gardner Minshew.
Benjamin said the 301 for Minshew, but the manager wants more because he can get more from a needy team. That might be true. Like in season, people get desperate.
I traded for Gardner Minshew mid-season last year in a league because I was like, I don't have a quarterback. I'm screwed with injuries. I won a title and it worked, but it felt so dumb. It felt so dumb at the time.
I'd send a third for Minshew.
Like him and Jacoby Brissett, I'd just be holding until somebody comes to me for one of them. Because Jacoby Brissett, I would bet on him being the week 1 starter.
Yes, probably. But he might have like 3 weeks. Like Mitch Trubisky before Pickett took over, you know. I don't think we've talked about this one yet tonight.
We have not.
Today. What do you think about Ricky Pearsall going 31st overall to the San Francisco 49ers? Look, we have not discussed this yet.
If I have to
Good.
If I have to bet on a 5th-year wide receiver, I will take him over Xavier Leggett. I will. I've had him over there. I've had him over that guy to begin with. Here's the thing. I don't know if I can't put Pearsall up in the tier with, at least right now, with Troy Franklin, Ladd McConkey, Jalen Polk. I prefer those guys over him still. And then, like right there. So for me, I'm looking at my list here. That's wide receiver 9. That's where I'm at with him.
I have him at wide receiver 8 at the 2.04 in Superflex leagues. I do have him one spot ahead of Xavier Leggett. I don't have Jalen Polk up above him, so I think that's the one difference.
I think I like Polk, and if Polk falls to the third round,
Mm-hmm.
drop him down. I think he's a second round pick. I think he should be a second round pick. If he's not there, I will have to cool on Polk, unfortunately. But right now, it's tough. Not knowing the second round. Like I think that's going to be a huge part of this. Same with Troy Franklin. If he's not in the second round and somehow falls to the third round there, got to move him down too. Got to react.
But I'll target him when he falls.
Yes.
Yes. But as for Pearsall specifically, what do you think about? Like, are you would you target him at like the 2.01 or something like that? If maybe one of the running backs don't get a good landing spot, are you taking him over Bo Nix? Like, where do you feel Ricky Pearsall kind of slots in overall in Superflex leagues?
I'm taking him over Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix was a larger reach than Michael Penix. I am not a Bo Nix guy. And I've been pretty adamant about that, I think, since like day one. I'm not in on Bo Nix. And the history of quarterbacks in that range, not great. He's right around the 112 to like the 203. In that range is where I consider him.
Okay. I have him at 2.04. So yeah, I have him one spot behind Bo Nix, but this is all massive tier. So
right, like it's landing spot is going to be the tiebreaker for all of these players.
Mm-hmm.
Deebo Samuel getting traded matters. If Deebo Samuel starts the year here, Brandon Ayuk starts, it's a different conversation.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's why I have Pearsall at 2.04. Like I'm pretty prepared to put him ahead of Nix, and I'm pretty prepared to put him ahead of Addison and Troy Franklin and maybe Benson, depending on landing spots. And if one of them, if the receivers, like if Franklin falls to round 3, I there's still maneuvering that could happen with Ricky Pearsall here. And I do want to say, like, the 5th-year wide receiver thing, in terms of he's a better shot than Leggett, I agree with that from a situational standpoint, because Pearsall and San Fran, dude, especially if Deebo or Ayuk are gone, that opens the door up massively. And you already know, like we were talking about, like Dable's like cooking up stuff for Neighbors. Like you already know Shanahan is chomping at the bit to get Pearsall out here onto the field and drawing up some plays specifically for him. And the situation is just better. I mean, the team as a whole is better. Brock Purdy's better than Bryce Young. He's a better route runner, separator. Leggett has the higher end upside, I think, just because he's massive and fast and could be wide receiver 1 for the team. But Pearsall is much safer and is in a better system that I think can cover up a lot of his flaws. Whereas Leggett in Carolina, thrown into the Lions den, like he has to develop quickly. And that's not an offense. And Bryce Young's not a quarterback, I don't think, that can just cover up a lot of what he can't do well.
Yeah. The thing I like about Pearsall, he's a significantly better route runner. Significantly better. Versus man, I'm literally just going to read through perception because I think this lays it out very well. 87th percentile versus man. Leggett was 19%, like 19th percentile. It is an enormous difference. Zone, 69th percentile, press, 51. Less concerned about that. And then from an alignment perspective, he's more versatile. Like he at Florida played everywhere. They're left side, right side, slot, out wide, didn't matter, out of the backfield. He has the versatility, and Leggett has some of that too. But again, he's far from a perfect profile still. Like even as a player, as much as we're kind of gassing him up here a little, guy, still a 5th-year senior, still late breakout age. He's a much older prospect. He's older than Leggett. I think somebody said in the chat as well. So there are still okay.
September to January.
Okay, I don't care. There's plenty of issues with the profile still. The 1st-round draft capital on the landing spot mixed with the versatility and route running make it an interesting dart throw, but that dart throw just got a lot more expensive because he's going to be a late 1st to mid-2nd round pick now in rookie drafts.
Yeah, I remember I did a rookie mock draft with Alfredo Brown, and he took him, I think, at like the 304 in that mock. and Pearsall. It took Pearsall like a 304. And I was like,
Yeah.
he's like, this is my favorite dart throw. He's like, I love him, blah, blah, blah. Like, cheaper version of Lad McConkey, all this stuff. And now he's not cheap
Nope.
anymore.
Yeah, that's gone. Yeah, he was a good dart throw. Like, he was like, the profile made sense in the third with the expected draft capital. Now, it's not an option. It is not. Like, you have to spend up to get him. And again, the lack of production for 4 years, like, just, you can't ignore those things. Breakout age does matter to a degree. Good players traditionally are very good early on. The guys that produce super late, not even like year 3, but year 5 for the first time, that's not good. If you're a grown man playing against kids, I would hope you're producing. Like, the bar is much, much higher.
Yep. I don't understand the hate on breakout age. If there was one singular metric that I had to look at that was not draft capital, it would be breakout age.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, individually, all these metrics suck, and draft capital is by far the best indicator as well, too. But I feel like breakout age is number 2, and people just kind of like toss it aside. They're just like, whatever.
It's that and route running. Like, if I got to pick 2 things, it's reception perception. I will use. I live and die by reception perception. You guys have followed. I quote it constantly because route running matters. You have to be able to get open. If you can't get open, it's very, very difficult. And you can get better as a route runner, but that's really damn hard, especially at 23, 24 years old.
Already in the NFL.
Already in the NFL. Like, it's really, really difficult to just all of a sudden go, you know what? I think I'm going to run routes better now. Like, they've been working on that their entire lives. It's just, we often undersell, be like, oh, well, if he just improves his route running. Look, if he just improved his route running, he would have done that a long time ago, probably. So it's usually fairly sticky, and you get incremental jumps, every year, but you don't get massive leaps most of the time.
Rob's asking, would you trade Joe Burrow and Aaron Jones or for the 1.01 and a 25 first? Or which side would you take here? Joe Burrow, Aaron Jones, or the 101 and a 25 first?
101 and a 2025 first.
That's the side I'm taking. There's a minimal difference between Joe Burrow and what I am hoping Caleb Williams is/becomes. But the 25 first over Aaron Jones is a massive difference.
Yeah. Aaron Jones is going to be great this year. Things are going to be fantastic. I want the 2025 first over the 28-year-old running back.
Is there anything that we forgot to talk about from last night? I feel like we hit on Penix and Leggett and Pearsall and Worthy, and we touched on like Addison falling out of the first a little bit too. We talked about Bowers, Bo Nix a little bit, Odunze. I think we got everything.
So much happened. So much.
And so much more is going to happen tonight.
13 players with like immediate fantasy relevance are drafted. What a night. Like, that's for like people that do fantasy football. What we're doing here, that's as good as it gets.
Run it all back tonight. Let's do it again.
Can't wait.
Let's do it.
Cannot wait.
All right, everybody. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us for like the past a little over an hour for some round 1 reactions. Of course, we're going to have even more stuff to talk about after tonight. And then after Saturday as well, too. We're going to have rankings. We're going to have value risers, value droppers, I guess. Fallers there. That's a better word. Veterans to talk about, more rookies to talk about, mock drafts, all that kind of stuff over the weekend and through next week as well, too. So bunch of content here covered for you guys to help you get ready for your rookie drafts. Like I said, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the rest of the NFL draft. And we'll catch you guys later. See you.